Greetings and welcome to Which Resume Style Fits Best? Or more likely to be, which resume style fits you and your circumstances best? It's kind of the first thing that we need to take a look at if we're going to create a resume. And we also have to know what we're targeting because it is a targeted marketing piece. So we want to be effective. Hi, my name is Ann Mossop, and I'm an employment specialist at one of the Next Steps Employment Centers. Welcome to today's presentation, and we are going to be learning some great things. One of the things that I find challenging when I'm dealing with clients is they don't seem to really realize and understand the importance of using keywords when you're responding to postings that are on job boards. That's Monster, Workopolis. LinkedIn uses applicant tracking systems. Indeed, they all use applicant tracking systems if it's a job board. And most large organizations use applicant tracking systems as well. So it is part of the style of your resume because it is something that you must take into consideration regardless of the format style of your resume. So we're going to take a look at keywords more specifically so that you understand how it integrates into your resume. And then secondly, we're going to take a look at the 3 different resume styles, and you can make some decisions around the most appropriate style to format for your resume. So I'll be talking about various different circumstances. A technical resume is a little bit different, youth, and so on, so that we can really adapt and realize what's going to work best depending on what we're targeting. And I always quote this: a time will come when winter will ask, what were you doing all summer? So this is the time to start preparing and to make sure that your marketing materials are of the highest quality, because in Toronto, it's the most competitive market in all of Canada, and it's going to continue to be competitive. One of the ways we can stand out is by showing how savvy we are about how we present ourselves. So I've given you a bit of an overview and a rationale, a logic behind why we would choose a certain style. We're going to talk more specifically about applicant tracking systems. They are critical to your success going forward, especially if you're doing a lot of online applications and postings. We do want you to expand outside of that to tapping into the hidden job market and networking. But at least if you are applying online, let's do it effectively. And then we're going to wrap up and make some decisions as to what are the steps that you need to take going forward. So applicant tracking systems are nothing really new. These are scanners. It's a piece of software that uses search engine optimizations. It searches for keywords that were in the posting that the employer has an expectation that you're going to include in your resume. And that doesn't mean just copying word for word what the posting says. Part of the challenge of doing an excellent resume is making sure that each one is targeted and making sure that the keywords are specific to that job posting and integrating it into your resume, and making sure that you're sending off something that is going to likely get a response. So there's two videos on YouTube that I can recommend. We're going to try and watch the job scan one, but PrepTel is an excellent little introduction, and it really goes into more exploration as to what the employer does and what it looks like from their side when they're going through that sorting process. It is helpful. The job scan one that I'm going to show you is more the benefit to you if you are going to be scanning your resume and you want to see how it's done. We have access to JobScan at the Next Steps Employment Centers. Another reason to become a client. Our resume services and our other services are really exclusive to clients of Next Steps. So watching the videos is great, but this is definitely a service that you might want to take advantage of. So bear with me for a moment, and I'm going to switch over and we're going to take a look at a quick YouTube. I won't be any more than, say, 10 seconds. So hold on.
Welcome to JobScan. Here's a quick walkthrough of how and why to optimize your resume using JobScan. What am I talking about when I say optimization? Most companies utilize software known as Applicant Tracking Systems, or ATS, to sort, filter, and rank their job applicants. This means that a hiring manager probably isn't looking at every resume that gets submitted. Instead of reading each resume, they're searching for keywords and allowing the system to compile a list of top candidates. If you're applying through an online job board, you're applying through an ATS, and optimizing your keywords is critical to your success. This is the resume scanning tool found on the jobscan.co homepage or in your dashboard if you're logged in. This is where you'll enter your resume and the job description for which you're applying. The first thing you need to do is paste in or upload your resume. I've got my resume copied and I'm pasting it here in the left box. Next, you'll need a job description. Here's a listing I found online. I'll copy everything from the job title down through the end of the qualifications and requirements and paste the text into the box on the right. Click Scan. This is the match report. You see at 36% I have some work to do. JobScan recommends an 80% match or higher to ensure being a top result in the ATS. Improve your score by addressing as many red X's as possible. JobScan offers suggestions based on your resume's particular components, including measurable results, which ATS you're applying through, and most importantly, hard skills or keywords. Focusing your attention on this section is the key to tailoring your resume to a specific job. After you've made the changes, click Rescan on the left sidebar to see your score progress. Rinse and repeat. Register at JobScan to save your results and track your job applications. Employers use robots. So should you.
And we're back. So that gives you a pretty good idea of exactly how they work. It's not something that we can ignore, and the PrepTel video is even more clear. Now, JobScan is something that we have as employment specialists, but what I would suggest you do is after this workshop, work on your resume. It's your resume, and you can take ownership of it now based on what you hear today. So definitely touch base with your employment advisor, update them with changes that you've made, and then they can forward you on to us. But we are looking for a commitment. If you've attended this workshop and you're sending your resume after the fact, we want to see some of the changes. And I'm speaking of people from all locations. I work at Downsview, but definitely put an effort into that first draft that you're going to create. Beating the bots or beating the scanners, you're actually serving two masters. And what I have come up with myself is a way to sort of serve two masters. You've got to make it ATS friendly, and at the same time, it has to be eyeball scanner friendly, so that you can make it dual purpose. And you can create a resume and make it dual purpose that way. The days of those beautiful resumes with graphics and columns and tables and all that stuff are gone. You can't have, it has to be very, very simple. And really the best way to highlight things is to bold things. So that would be titles and bullets, and left justifying as much as you possibly can, using the tabs instead of the space bar. If you're tabbing over to show things. So it's just being savvy about the ways to design the formatting, because 70% of all resumes submitted online are rejected for formatting errors. That's a lot. And if you're in that 70%, you're going to lose your motivation. And there's no point in keep to keep doing the same thing if you're not getting any kind of positive result. So writing for applicant tracking systems takes planning, it takes commitment, it takes effort. The job titles do matter, it's taken from the posting. Your resume is going through a resume search engine optimization. So it's searching for the keywords, and keywords matter from the posting, and not just 2 or 3 sprinkled in. There's quite a number of them that are going to matter to those applicant tracking systems. Now, in that first resume, you saw that he had a list of skills at the end of his resume. That's considered keyword stuffing. And machines have gotten more sophisticated, so that doesn't tend to work or score you highly. Not all keywords are equal. If it says communication in the posting, then you must say communication, the exact same word, in your resume. It can't be a variation of the word. It does need to be the exact word. So again, finessing around, integrating that into your resume is going to take some time and effort. Keyword placement is very critical. The top half of your resume that you're submitting is, all of your resume is important, but that profile, that top piece is critical. And that's where recruiters go first to see if you are a match or a fit. So we'll talk just a little bit briefly about the profile. Keep it simple. You know, it's just we usually say choose Arial or Tahoma. You can make your name 14 point. I usually recommend that you make the body and the rest of your name and information 11 point in Tahoma and Arial. It's a good size to read. They are sans serif, and that's what makes them different from Times New Roman. They don't have those curly cues on the letters, and it's much easier for the human eye to scan it. So we have to be considerate of the machines, but we have to be considerate of the human, and be human yourself when it comes to talking about your skills. It's not just all technical skills. There are those soft and interpersonal skills that employers are desperately seeking as well. And we do know that there's a huge lacking in advanced leadership and advanced management skills. So the 3 styles of resume, the first one is the old style, or what I remember as the old style, which is chronological, functional, and a combination. And there's a particular combination that's really popular now. It's called hybrid. So we'll just back up from here. Chronological, I have some examples. It's good if you have steady career progression in the same field. It's proof of your expertise and credibility. All resumes are chronological in the sense that they are reverse chronological. With a chronological resume, your profile is at that top half, your job target is listed there, and then I call this the body of your resume. What supports who you are is your work experience, and giving examples or accomplishment statements, support statements under each employer that you worked for. In all cases, in those sections, we always start with a verb in past tense. And we'll take a look at the examples. I just want to review this quickly. Functional is if you're changing a career or you're transitioning to something new, sometimes even changing industries, you need to maybe go with a functional. If you've had a lot of movement and you've got a lot of gaps, functional focuses on your skills and your abilities as opposed to the gaps. And if you've had a number of jobs, a number of years at the same job and company, sometimes that can work against you, in the sense that we have to remember that the person on the other side of the desk, in a lot of cases, HR is a junior entry level, an HR recruiter is a junior entry level position. So we have to be mindful of that, and we do want that opportunity to get into front of someone and tell them who we are. The hybrid combination sort of draws on the best of both the chronological and the functional format. We put functional skill headings within the chronological format. We have specific subtitles within those support statements that we group like skills under so that the message is much more powerful. And we also feature accomplishments. We pull out accomplishments and feature it just below our profile. So we'll take a look. I'm going to switch to another. I have a Word document. I pull that up because it's easier. I can make corrections right on the screen if I see anything that's not 100%. So we're just going to switch over. So hang on for just a moment and I'll be right back. So here we are. This is a sample chronological that I had talked about. Let me get rid of these boxes. Hang on. Just wait till that disappears. This is a 2-pager. How you've decided to present your name and your address at the top becomes your company logo. It's going to be the same at the top of your cover letter because your cover letter is a standalone first page, and your first page on your resume is a standalone first page, so it would have letterhead as well, which is your name and contact information. Your second page is going to be different because we don't get 20 pages of letterhead. The cover letter is one page and a first page, and the resume is a first page as well. So strongly recommend you're using however you format the top of your resume. It looks very elegant and very impressive at the top of your cover letter. And we're branding, so it's part of branding. The objective is changed. We don't have objectives anymore. We just state whatever it is listed in the posting. In this particular instance, the person's applying for a call center manager. The profile up front usually includes all of the key success factors that you present, that you bring to the employer that are going to be successful. In some cases, it's the top third to anywhere to a top half of the page. And then for chronological, this person has work experience. It could be professional experience. It could be work history. Again, we sort of look to the posting. If there's any one of those are specified, then we would use it. If not, we would just go with what we're comfortable with. I always place the position first to the left, simply because I put the importance on the job and less importance on the company. The dates and the job are important, and the company. This allows people to glance across in a Z pattern, because we go left to right, left to right, left to right when we're reading in a Z pattern. It makes it easier to scan as the way it's presented. And for scanners, I usually recommend the 3-letter variation of the month, and this is the best way to present it. This is captured by applicant tracking systems because I've tested it many times, and it pulls out the month and the year very nicely. So this person has just strictly gone with chronological. She's going back in time to other jobs. We usually recommend that you don't go beyond 10 to 15 years ago. She's kind of pushing it a little, but anyways, you have to make a decision. 10 to 15, you're not telling your whole life story. It's not a curriculum vitae. It's a resume. It's a marketing piece. It's truthful, but we're also trying to make us attractive, just like a brochure that you're going to some kind of resort. It has to be appealing and attractive and neat and easy to read, and still be effective when you posted on applicant tracking systems. So professional development, everybody might have that. The only comment I'll make to that, and these are just X's plugged in because it's a sample. You would put the years or the dates as you did for your work history. If your education is beyond, maybe she got the business administration diploma in 1995, I would still list it here and the college name, but I would not put the date. We don't want to date ourselves. It shows that you have that skill. Your experience is extensive since any time that you would have gotten a college degree. You have MS Project, which is something that is valued in today's market. So yeah, I'm going to be interested in it. Not everybody's going to have interest in volunteer. This tends to be an interest in volunteering that is relevant to the position. So by all means, I think she should put it on there, Distress Call Center of Toronto. And she's doing that. So it's in her business, and that demonstrates a positive statement about her as well. So chronological, the top piece, whether it's a chronological, whether it's a functional, whether it's a combination, they all have that top piece. You're stating what you are targeting and that profile, and the profile really needs to be targeted towards that position. This would be a good place to pepper and emulate some of the words in the posting. You could make this profile longer. It's kind of a short profile for that level of position. So this is just something basic that you can work with and add and target towards whatever posting you're going for. So this is a chronological 2-pager. Next, we look at a functional resume. And again, it has the same top. This is just a different font. So that top half tells them what it is that you're targeting, and the profile is specifically designed towards the posting. Now, in this particular instance, the person may have 10 years, but I really can't say that I've ever seen a posting that's looking for 10 years experience or anything more than 5. I've seen maybe 7, but this is not going to get picked up by the employer. So in this case, I would just change this to, let's say it said 5, more than, let's say the posting said the number. And I would change it to more than 5 years of experience working in a demanding, fast-paced environment. If they're looking for 5 years experience, then you want the applicant tracking system. There's one thing that's an important requirement that you're going to want them to pick up. But as we look at the body and in the next section, it says relevant skills and experience. So it's skills and experience as opposed to work experience. So what we've done is we've pulled out, okay, what are the most important skills? Well, if you're going to be a customer sales and service agent at the airport, then your most important skill is going to be customer service, client relations. So she has put that as one of her main skills. Her next skill level, again, if you were at the airport, the administrative and organization skills would be really important. And looking to the next top of the second page, problem solving and teamwork would be important too. So when we look at her resume or her professional experience, she's been an executive assistant, probably a job that she can easily transfer over to. They were looking for somebody who had hospitality experience. So she has listed all of her experience, but she has highlighted that hospitality experience because they said in lieu of aviation experience, if you had hospitality, that would be a benefit. So it's one way that she can visually highlight that. If it's important to the job, which it was in this particular instance. And she has different skill areas that are the premier, most important skills for that particular job. And what we're trying to do, in a sense, is we're trying to, I liken it to, or the analogy I use is, you're trying to make a clay sculpture. You're trying to make a clay head and shoulders, a bust of someone. And because we're trying to maybe recreate ourselves, which we should be doing through this period of time, that bust, that head that we've done, we're not just going to slap any old clay on it of things that we've done from the past. We're going to be very choosy about what clay is going to create that image of what it is that they're looking for. And things, zeroing in on the skills that are important to that job. Even you can transition to anything and pull out and create that bust or that sculpture that really looks like and is an image of that person, even though you've never specifically done that job before. So you need to paint a picture with your words. And that's not only in your resume, but also in your face-to-face communication at interviews. So a functional resume is skill-based. She still has her professional work history there, and she's just used her skills to convey what she brings to the table. Now, in this particular instance, the person, she did have her, she was a legal assistant, and that's why she became a sort of an executive assistant too, was her knowledge of the law. And so she's put that on there. She's not really saying the years or the date because it ended up being quite a while ago. And she featured her languages again, because that's going to be really important to any company, airline looking for any kind of languages. And she speaks 3. So there is a functional, skill-based. It's also called an accomplishment-based resume when we get more into senior management levels. So you're using accomplishment statements as opposed to just support statements. That we start with a verb so that we can convey what action we took in whatever it is we're describing. Okay, so I think this is an older version, however I can explain it. This is the resume, the hybrid resume. This is a combination hybrid. So I've taken the same woman's resume that we had in the very first one, and I've converted it to a combination. And I think you'll find that it communicates much better. So the ad was looking for 5 years of experience, so we matched that with giving the scope of her experience. I would take this out with over 10 years, just with experience in the financial industry. This one needs a period. When it comes to resumes, I do have a preference for not using punctuation other than for specific accomplishment statements where they are sentences. Most of these sentences here are really, they're really just thoughts. They're not really a full sentence. And I hate, oops, sorry. I hate using punctuation when it's not a full sentence. But it's sort of an optional thing. I would not recommend it because of applicant tracking systems, and that is because they come to a full stop, and maybe you don't want that necessarily to happen. But this person has done period, so I want to keep it consistent. Oops. And as we roll down, the thing that's different about this one and the first chronological is I moved up her MS project skills with a business administration diploma. These are things that she has, and this is your big picture of who you are. So you want to make sure all of your qualifications, all the requirements that they're looking for are up front, because you get a 6-second glance. They look at the average time is 6 seconds, and that passes pretty quickly. The other benefit in this particular resume example is she has pulled out some of her more outstanding accomplishments, and they really are amazing accomplishments. But rather than integrating it into a wall of words like the first resume was, she's featured them in the middle of the first page, which is probably the most important real estate on a page. That's where our eyes tend to go to first. We scan up and we start to the left, and again, we scan across. But we don't read everything, so we have to entice people. And one of the ways that we can do it is by using a combination. Again, we've just taken that first resume, the chronological. We crafted different titles for the position because we grouped together like things and we gave it a title. So this was in the first resume, but we've grouped like things, given it a title, so that when it comes to that pair of human eyes scanning it, they're going to see those bolded, and it tells them immediately that this person, business services, supervision skills, staff management, leadership skills, she's just grouped everything under those categories. It makes it easier for the person to sort. Generally speaking, they will only maybe read the first couple of bulleted points, and that's why you want to break it down. This is perfect. She's got amazing accomplishments there. They're going to want to meet this candidate for sure. Starting with her MS project, again, those are just sample. The years are going to be plugged in there. And just realize that professional development, everybody might not have it, but it has weight only if you specify where you got it from, and if you know the exact names and the years. You have to legitimize it and give it credibility by talking about those aspects of your professional development. And again, she's volunteering for the Distress Center, and that's really a positive statement about the person too. So it matters less what it looks like. It matters more that this kind of format would be a lot easier to integrate the keywords. And to be honest with you, it's what recruiters tell us they prefer, because yeah, it's got all the elements that make it easy to pick them. So let's go back to our presentation. Just give me a moment to switch over. And we'll wait for that annoying box to go away. So there we have it. I showed you the combination hybrid has the selected achievements under the profile. That it's actually ends up being, I guess, about 2/3 of the page, not quite, maybe half, a little bit between there. But it's the real estate there is so important. Get your best stuff up front so that they get that picture of who you are. if they're only looking at it for 6 seconds, they've got to pick that up, that information really quickly. So making a comprehensive profile, taking into consideration applicant tracking keywords, having that selected achievements featured in the middle of the first page of your resume, and using a chronological resume style, but integrating functional skill headings when you group like things together. And you don't want to have, just 1 or 2 titles. Sometimes you can group things together. Just don't go overboard with all the skills. We're looking for the most critical skills. Technical resume, it's a little bit different. Anybody who is, and when I say technical, I'm talking about IT professionals, IT project management, possibly business analyst. Yeah, there is a profile like we have seen, and you can list your certifications, degrees, or whatever. And then just below that profile is a technical skills section. And in that section, it identifies their hardware, software, languages, all of the technical aspects that they're aware of, because usually they've got quite a long list. And that may cover up to, say, 2/3 of the page, and then still trying to get your most significant accomplishments at the bottom of that page would be an impressive technical resume. And then on the top of the second page, you can start back and present your work history the way you would in a chronological, maybe possibly giving it some functional headings, skill headings within. But a powerful, powerful front page, because they know right away that you either have the right stuff or you don't, especially when it comes to IT. Functional is good, and I'm not really pushing the functional. It has its place, and so does a combination hybrid. But for functional, if you're a youth with limited experience, if you're a newcomer or an internationally educated professional, if you're career transitioning, you're going into something totally different. That bust I talked about, that clay and molding, looking as the new person you're reinventing yourself for. An industry changer, if you've got a lot of work gaps, if you're a mature and experienced worker, sometimes I think a functional really, really expresses your can-do abilities and your skills, and it's quite acceptable. The purpose of the resume, if you're not hearing anything back, something is wrong. You need to change, because the purpose of the resume is to get an interview. So if that's not happening, change. I've referred to this a couple of times, and actually I could never find a chrysalis, so I used a bean pod for many years. But I really do believe, especially through this process, when you're working towards employment, or you're working towards making a change, you really do have to rethink yourself, recreate yourself, reinvent yourself, and look at yourself from all different angles. Explore, stop and reflect. That's a part of life that we need to stop and reflect, and especially when it comes to a career. Nobody's career is, starts at the bottom and goes straight to the top. Even when you look at famous people, even somebody like George Burns, or who am I trying to think of? When they're old, Bob Hope. They recreated themselves. Their careers lasted 80, 90 years because they knew how to recreate and reinvent themselves. Well, one person I can think of is Arnold Schwarzenegger, although his last reinvention hasn't really helped him. But that guy could rethink and recreate himself. And anybody that's famous that you take a look at, you have to have that ability, that flexibility to be able to reinvent and see yourself through new eyes. Give yourself a break. And doing your resume, it should be an esteem building activity. So we're putting ourselves in the employer's shoes. The employer's seeking a good fit. And in today's world, it's not just the skills or the requirements. You have to have a personality that's going to fit, and that's part of what they're looking at as well. You can communicate through PAR examples. I use PAR. There is also CAR, PAR and CAR. It depends on what your job is. PAR might be easier for some people. The higher up the ranks you go. CAR stands for challenges, action, results. PAR stands for problem, action, results. This is the secret formula. This is the smoking gun. This is what's going to make your resume blow their socks off. Those accomplishments that I talked about in that, just under the profile in the hybrid, and just having those stories to tell when you get to the interview. Examples, tell people everything. Stories, telling a story about something that you did. Then people, oh, you did this over here. Oh, you're going to come here and you're going to do something the same. So we need to have those examples, PAR examples of communication, customer service, organization, administration. We need examples up our sleeve before we ever walk through the door so that we can convey those accomplishments effectively. So PAR and CAR, and I will be, there is a presentation that will be out on both of those and speaking more specifically about conveying accomplishments. I always say we all listen to the same radio station, WIIFM. That's a joke because it's sort of an acronym that stands for, well, I call it WIFM, is what's in it for me. So that's how we think sometimes, but definitely the employers, you know, you've been called in for an interview. What's in it for me? What are you going to do for me? And we always have to remember, features don't sell a product. And that's why that list of skills that was in that resume that was on that job scan video bothers me. Features, communication, organization, administration, that communicates absolutely nothing to me. So let me give you an example. I'm buying a car in July and there's a seat warmer. And I'm like, hey, the person tells me, hey, the feature is the seats warm up. Like, so what? It's July. The benefit is when you get in the car in January and it's 15 below, you've got a nice warm tush. So features don't really speak. We have to tie the benefit back. And the biggest mistake people make in their interviews and in their resumes, they'll talk about the problem, they'll talk about the action, and then they don't talk about the result. They'll talk about the features that they have, but they won't talk about how the employer will benefit. These two things have to be there in order for people to get the message, and the best way to do it is by giving examples and using PAR and CAR. So hopefully you'll attend some future workshops and learn more about PAR and CAR. You've got 6 seconds to get your case. Position, 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 marketing 101, where you place the information. You don't want to repeat things over and over again. A lot of people do that in the interview as well. You go in prepared and you have different examples. You can't pull out the same examples over and over again. Powerful communication happens when you say it once and you say it powerfully. So just remember that. And especially in an interview, you want to be prepared. And in your resume, you want to give various different examples and not repeat the same things over and over again. The employer's mindset, hey, format and design what the employer wants. They're using applicant tracking systems. You can bemoan it, you can boo-hoo, but that's what we're dealing with. We know that, so let's make the adjustment. It's actually quite easy if you know how the game is played. They do it to screen out as many candidates as possible. If you're getting 200 or 300 candidates for every position, or 1,000 or more when it's government positions and things like that, you do have to screen out as many as possible. And remember what they said about applicant tracking systems too. You can get screened out if 70% are screened out because of formatting. So, yeah, it can be very easy. Are you part of that 70%? It would be nice to know. If you get a phone call after about your resume, they're screening you. It is an interview in a sense. So treat it like an interview. Don't take the call, and if it's a really bad time, they're trying to shortlist candidates. And ultimately, if your resume is successful, it's going to get you interviews. With the profile, I'm just going to touch briefly on this. It's your years and scope of experience. As we mentioned, we saw some of those and it was over 10 years. But we have to make it relevant to the applicant tracking system. So we can say more than 5 years of experience because that's the posting says. In the second line, she had said that she actually had 10. Maybe that's something that you can cover off in a cover letter. It's not really necessary. So meet the qualifications, try to exceed them whenever possible, but the wording really does matter. So the scope of your experience, your profile, it doesn't matter. It depends on what your job is, what you're doing, what level you're targeting. It could be 10 statements. It could be 15 statements. There's no hard and fast rule. But you're making broad statements about your technical and interpersonal skills. What are the skills that you need to excel in a position? Well, customer service, administrative organization, communication. Communication is understood for everyone, and you would never say that as a weakness, your communication or your language skills, ever, never, ever, ever. So you've just lost out if, it's just how employers think. I usually recommend you put your degrees and diplomas or relevant training to the targeted position up front so that it's part of that big picture of who you are. I also recommend, I've heard no computer skills, yes, put computer skills. It's part of the package, it's part of the requirement, so I would say yes, put whatever computer skills you have. Languages, I think, are always relevant. If you speak other languages, then by all means put them down. And just think, the profile is a big picture of you, relevant to what the position is that you are targeting. And these would be the key success factors that you would need to have to be really good at that job. And then you're going to prove it in the body of your resume. Formatting your letterhead is your me-ink letterhead, however you decide to present yourself. It's going to be your brand in anything that you provide, the top of your references, the first page on your cover letter, first page on your resume. We use that letterhead. And the reference letter is not something that you send, it's something you would bring with you to a first interview so that you have it handy. But how nice that it's branded the same as your resume and your cover letter. Just a nice touch that shows that extra finesse, that quality touch. Your second page is different from your first page. Usually it's just your name and your contact information at the top of the second page. Bolding is okay with applicant tracking systems. It's also great for a pair of human eyes to scan a resume because it really helps us to read. They're like headlines, the headlines that we can read. So the bolding becomes important, like a newspaper. We don't read the whole newspaper, we scan which headlines catch our attention, and that's what we read. You can capitalize, caps for main titles, and capitalizing some of the titles and subtitles, just using the capital titles, capitalizing the title. Use tabs, do not use the space bar. Use the space bar sparingly, but primarily tabs if you're tabbing over across, if you want to get something across the page. Use the default settings for formatting. Don't have narrow margins or big, huge margins, just normal default margins. Underlining, italics, columns, tables. To the human eye, they can be an irritant, but to an applicant tracking system, it can't read those things. So again, it's a formatting error. If you want to list things on your resume, you can left justify and list it down instead of using a table. It matters less what it looks like. It matters more if you're sending it in that it can be read by the applicant tracking system. And positioning the information is critical. So that's why I believe combination hybrid with that profile and those 3 selected achievements right where the recruiter goes is perfect. So here we are back where we started. We have understood the importance, hopefully we've understood the importance of using keywords when responding to postings on job boards like Monster and Workopolis. And we learned that you have to assume applicant tracking systems are being used. The other thing that I identified to you were the 3 styles of resume and the most appropriate style to format your resume. The one thing that I didn't mention was for youth. And I did have an example. I'm not sure if I can pull it up. I'll try before we go to see if I can pull it up. But I will mention it. We'll move on. A 1-page functional resume would be perfect for a youth. And if you're also applying for something that is, what would I say? If you're applying for something, a survival job, just to get some money together or something part-time, then usually a 1-pager is your best bet. So if you contact me after the presentation, I have my email address at the end. I will make sure to make a note and include the youth formatting in that particular package as well. So I hope that you can spend your summertime as far as that quote is concerned. Start preparing and doing your heavy lifting. It's your resume, be accountable, and it should be an esteem building activity. Make the most of it. Did we achieve our objectives today? What new learning has happened for you? Well, I'm hoping that you understand applicant tracking systems a little bit better and just how critical that is to including in your resume, and that you've got 3 different styles of resume to choose one. The chronological, focusing on your work history specifically to convey your a candidate. The functional, which conveys through your skills, pulling out the right skills through that sculpture that we create with the skills as being the right person. And finally, I really think I would strongly recommend the combination hybrid, even over a chronological. It fits the applicant tracking system situation a little bit better with the skill headings and those selected achievements, because they're also scanning for achievements. So I hope you've learned a lot and you can make a decision, a comfortable and confident decision. Just take baby steps. Don't become overwhelmed. Just take baby steps. So my call to action to you is to act on today's information. Use all the resources available to you. Continue to attend the webinars. Access everything. There's some greater programs that are available to you. Things are going to be showing up more and more as things improve in the economy. Be accountable and accept the challenge. Start preparing your resume today. I mean, that quote I said, start doing it today, because there's going to come a time when it's like, uh-oh, that's what I should have been doing. So start now. An hour a day is 5 hours a week. And in no time, it's just break things down into doable pieces. Don't get overwhelmed. Just even making a commitment of an hour or 2 a day to learning and job search. Hey, at the end of the week, you've spent 10 hours. So you're going to have something to show for it, hopefully. Stay in touch with your employment advisor or your job developer. Getting your resume done helps you to prepare for networking and interviews. Good luck. You can do this. I know you can. I believe in you. Going forward, I always say knowing something means nothing unless we implement what we know. So I only want you to really identify what do you need to start to do. So shifting your paradigm of what job searching is, shifting your perspective on what a resume looks like. Hopefully, what do you need to start doing? We've gotten into maybe some bad habits, sitting at the computer for 10 hours a day till you fall off with no result. That's something we need to stop. So we're doing some things and they're just not benefiting us. Procrastinating could be one of them. So what do we need to stop doing? And finally, we're doing some things right. What do we need to continue to do? Get excited. Become an effective job seeker. Learning how to do a resume is a life skill. We're all going to be looking for jobs on an ongoing basis. And you're only as good as the tools in your tool belt. So that excellent resume, you want to convey your best to an employer, and you want to do it with quality and with appropriate finesse and etiquette. Register at your nearest employment, Next Steps Employment Center. We can help you and support you and give you some guidance and direction. It's a good place to come for that support. In action plan, stop, starts, and continues, we've reflected. Once we leave today, come up with 3 ideas from this session that are the most immediate priorities that you need to implement in your job search relevant to your resume. Don't forget to like us. We're on Facebook and LinkedIn. And fill in your evaluation. My name is Ann Mossop, and I'm an employment specialist, and it's been my pleasure to talk to you about resumes and what's going to fit you best and applicant tracking systems. The evaluation link would have been sent to you. It is important to us. I always say we're here because you're there. At the same time, we won't get to be here if you don't send in your evaluation. We are accountable. So I hope you enjoyed today's presentation. Please send in that evaluation. It's important. Take care, all the best, and I hope to meet you in a live webinar soon.